Good morning. Thank you very much. To make sense of Avatar, I think you have to go back to the inception of the project. Avatar was originally written in 1995, before I made Titanic. And at that time, I was the CEO of a visual effects company called Digital Domain, which I had founded because I wanted to stay at the leading edge of CG computer animation. And by 1995, I felt that I needed to challenge the company to go far beyond what was being done already at that time. The Holy Grail, as we imagined it, was creating photorealistic CG of characters with full human emotions by capturing the performance of actors. So I conceived Avatar as a vehicle to push the state-of-the-art of CG character animation. But after I wrote it, the consensus amongst my technical people was that it would require several quantum leaps of technology, and it wasn't possible to do at that time. So I decided to wait. And like a good surfer, I would have to wait for my wave, because I figured that other films would continue to push the CG tools, and so it was only a matter of time. Well, in the meantime, I made this little movie about a ship that sinks, and in the process of making it, we actually did an expedition to the site of the real Titanic wreck, and we filmed it 12,000 feet down on the bottom of the seafloor in the North Atlantic. And that set me off down a completely new path because it ignited in me a passion for deep ocean expeditions. And in the years after Titanic came out, I wound up leading 6 subsequent deep sea expeditions, and I personally did over 70 submersible dives, and some of those were to depths of 2 and even 3 miles. Now, this was a detour into documentary films, but it would wind up being a critical step on my way to my next feature movie, which was Avatar. And that's because we used the expedition film projects to develop and test our 3D camera systems. In 2001, I formed a partnership with Vince Pace, who's here today somewhere. There he is. And our goal was to create stereoscopic cameras based on HD technology. And we refined the camera through several generations over a 7-year period until it ultimately became the Fusion camera system, which is what we use to shoot Avatar. When we very first started working with our prototype camera system in 2000, I was so impressed by the power of these 3D images that I made a promise to myself right then and there that all my future films would be in 3D. But the problem was that there weren't enough 3D screens around the world. There were only about 50 or so IMAX 3D theaters, and that wasn't enough to justify the additional cost of making a motion picture in 3D. So again, I had to wait. In the process of making Ghosts of the Abyss and Aliens of the Deep, which were the first 2 films that we made with our new cameras, I spent a lot of time preaching to Hollywood about the wonders of 3D. At that time, the Texas Instruments DLP projectors, their digital cinema projectors, were rolling out, and it was clear to me that these were the answer to wide-scale adoption at a worldwide level of 3D. And that's because of their high frame rates that were possible with digital as opposed to film, which made it possible for a single projector solution, which is the only way that the exhibitors would buy in. So I spent several years trying to convince Hollywood that a 3D renaissance was coming, and that it wouldn't be a fad, and that it would be a true revolution in the way we view media. And some listened, but most didn't. There was a big early milestone around that time, which was when Josh Greer at Real D worked with Disney to install 85 digital projectors in screens around the US for the release of Chicken Little, Disney's big animated film. And this was the first digital 3D movie release. And the 3D business began to slowly lift itself by its bootstraps. But for me, it was moving too slowly. By 2005, we had hundreds of screens around North America, very few internationally, and I wanted thousands. And the problem was that it was a chicken and the egg kind of problem. Theater owners didn't want to put in the 3D theater projectors because they wanted a guarantee that there were a number of 3D films coming down the pipe. And the studios didn't want to spend the extra money to make the movies in 3D without enough screens to play them on. And I figured that if this revolution was going to happen, it was going to have to be driven by content. So I figured, I needed to make a 3D movie that they couldn't ignore. I needed to put my money where my mouth was and make a piece of content that would capture the imagination of a world audience and that exhibitors would feel that they absolutely needed to book. And I looked at all my projects, and Avatar seemed to be the most compelling choice. But Avatar was going to be a daunting project because it would require huge advances in CG that would be necessary to pull it off. And that was in addition to the problems of making the movie in 3D, a live action film in 3D. Avatar wound up taking 4.5 years to make, and the first 2 years were dedicated to R&D. We were developing our virtual production facility and the proprietary facial performance capture system that made the movie possible. Now, there are plenty of articles out there, and I've done a lot of talks on how Avatar was made, so I'm not going to drag on about that. My point here is that going into it, the task was enormous, the film was very risky, and it was expensive. Avatar, like Titanic, was about spending a lot of money to hopefully make a lot of money. Then Avatar came out and it broke all the records, and it seemed as if 3D had arrived for good, and all the doubt and speculation were swept aside, seemingly by that one movie. But that's, I don't think, what was happening. In reality, Avatar marked the peak of a wave that had been building steadily for years. Over the last few years, Vince Pace and I have been pretty aggressive in learning how to shoot sports because we see this as the early driver of 3D into the home. And we've shot football, basketball, martial arts, boxing, car racing, everything you can think of. And the results have been stunning in every single case. Now, so far, this is all test content. This is proof of concept. And every sport is different. It's important to modify our camera systems to work in all of the traditional camera positions for shooting the different sports, because 3D shouldn't reinvent the wheel. It should piggyback onto the existing methods for shooting sports, which are already a mature science. Now, when we run this 3D sports content on these new displays, it looks incredible. Now, my opinion is that there are no barriers right now to 3D TV. We have the cameras worked out, and we've proven them over 10 years of widely varied production experience. We've evolved an end-to-end 3D production chain, including editing, the graphics, and so on. And the new TV sets and players are excellent, providing high-quality 3D. And the delivery over networks has been solved, at least in principle. Now, we knew going in that Avatar was going to have a long-running time. And so we knew that we had to create a viewer experience that was without eye strain or eye fatigue over a 2-hour and 40-minute film. And we did literally years of testing. And in the process, we threw out a stack of textbooks like this of the common or traditional knowledge of stereoscopy. And we came up with our own new rules. And even though these new rules completely defied the traditional textbooks that have been taught for years, they actually proved to be the right answer. Or Avatar couldn't have been a big hit based on it being a breakthrough in 3D, because Avatar was watchable 3D over a long period of time, was non-intrusive, it didn't cause eye fatigue and headaches and so on. And these rules have to be applied at every stage of camera development, of shooting, and of post-production, all the way to the home screen, or 3D cannot be widely accepted by a global audience. I've done a number of normal dramatic scenes in the course of making Avatar, some that were in the film, some that were taken out. And so I know that the 3D definitely gives a dramatic scene more power. It makes the viewer feel more present, which increases the emotional impact. So I'm going to say right now that drama will have value added by being in 3D, even without all the effects, all the CG. Comedy is still an unknown, but here's what I do know for sure. Every single thing that I've seen in 3D, from underwater documentary, natural history subjects, sports, concerts, movies, everything has gained from the 3D. But creating only good 3D will be critical to grow the market. Bad experiences will make audiences feel ripped off and wary of spending the extra price next time. They're being asked to pay a higher premium for a premium experience. So quality always has to be high. And that's from the cameras through post-production, over the delivery network to the final screen, quality needs to be maintained. So what does the future really look like? Well, the TVs are here this year. The content is coming. I've discussed that. The 3D broadcast cable and satellite companies are ramping up quickly over the next couple of years. We've got B-Sky, DirecTV, Discovery Channel, Sky Life. The announcements are coming in pretty much daily about new channels. Consumer demand initially is going to exceed supply. And the technology is not going to be the pacing factor here. It's going to be the creation of content that's the limiting factor. If media is recalled 10%, 20%, maybe 30% better by being in 3D, what does that mean for education? What does that mean for advertising? I think we're in a really exciting time right now. We're at the beginning of a real revolution in how we view media. And Korea, by the way, is perfectly positioned to be a world leader in new trends like 3D TV. Korean consumers are rapid adopters of new technology, and with the CE giants like Samsung and LG moving aggressively into 3D displays, alliances with content creators and distribution networks are soon going to bring exciting 3D to the home. The theme of this forum is Renaissance, and it really is a rebirth of digital media. And I'm very excited to be a part of it. Kamsahamnida, thank you. And as the Navi say, may the Great Mother smile upon us all.